Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. We are now, 4 days? 4 days and counting? till
Will it
the
matter in 4 days? I don't know.
Yeah, 4 days and counting until the NHL trade deadline, 3 p.m. on Monday. It's going to be, I think it's going to be busier than most and I don't usually say that because, I mean, the last couple of years, there were more deals leading up to it. And that always makes me say, okay, everybody has shot their wad basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, you'll have the usual third round pick and something for a fifth defenseman and a couple other things. But I have a feeling we're going to start hearing big things probably tomorrow. And unless everything unfolds on the weekend, it'll probably be late Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Anyway, let's start with the
players are starting to get pulled from games. I mean, that's for
sure.
Well,
yeah. I mean, it's pretty certain that Duchesne is going to get traded.
Yeah.
It's just a question of when. We know he's being held out. The question is tonight, because Ottawa plays in New Jersey, whether Stone and Dzingel will be sitting out as well. So we'll have to watch that. It's a 7 o'clock start. Okay, pre-show, Russ.
All right. So the pre-show today is, I have to remember what the pre-show is.
Peter Tork.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had so many things going on today. So, yeah, growing up, I grew up in the era of the Beatles and the Monkees. And the Monkees, to me, were always sort of like the young kids version of the Beatles. Because by the time I was like 7 years old, which is already 1970, the Beatles were already getting into the more harder rock stuff. So the Monkees in what were they, about 66 when they got rolling?
Yeah.
They played the lighter stuff. And so as a little kid, I had their albums, and I heard Peter Tork pass today. And I have to say, all these years, even when they would have Monkees celebrations and everything else, I would watch the YouTubes. I didn't go to the show, but I still like the songs. I know all the words. Today I put up Last Train to Clarksville. I could tell you every word for that. I put that up because I felt like that was probably apropos for Tork, right? He's probably on that last train,
Well, I can't remember if it was that song or Daydream Believer that was written by Neil Diamond.
Daydream Believer was written by Neil Diamond. All the other songs were written by Boyce and Hart. They were like the Bernie Taupin, but they were like the writing duo of that era where they were writing hit after hit after hit.
Right.
And, the Monkees were one of those bands where they were a bunch of actors. They were funny, but then they did learn how to play. And that was the thing, because when they toured at first, they were like, they weren't such great players, and they got better over the years.
Yeah.
And so they kind of grew into a better version way after the TV show was off the air. But that TV show was fun. It really was.
Yeah, and it tried to catch the spirit. And actually, if you listen to the style of music that they played, it was basically the Beatles pre-Rubber Soul. It was Help, Hard Day's Night, catchy. I mean, imitation.
They were playing it to kids my age back then. That's what they were doing. And we bought the albums, and, I played the hell out of them. So I was a little sad today. I have to, that was one that really kind of got me. It was like, I think I would have been sadder for that than when Captain Kangaroo passed. Now, if you tell me he's still alive, I'm going to be like, really? But
I don't know, and I don't care.
What do you mean? How could you not care about Captain?
No, sorry. Was not a big Captain Kangaroo fan. I mean, please, I saw a documentary. I was flipping through channels yesterday, watching a couple games, and
he died in 2004.
There you go. Flipping through channels, and it came upon HBO, and they got a 2.5-hour documentary on Mr. Rogers, for Christ's sake.
I mean, Mr. Rogers is interesting. Here's what you need to watch about Mr. Rogers, okay? I did not watch him back in the day. I was already too old for it. I didn't care about it. Maybe I wasn't a nice neighbor. Maybe I didn't like his sweater. I don't know. But Mr. Rogers went up against the Senate Judiciary panel back in the day.
Yep.
Watch that YouTube. It's pretty extraordinary things that he said in that if people actually had those beliefs now, we'd all be better off. He was really exceptional and he was really under the gun for that. Like, he didn't have to go up there for that, but I think he did it voluntarily because I think PBS was gonna maybe not get funded, right? So he had to prove it.
Right.
One of those things.
Well, the funny thing is
something evil. I know it.
No. I was just gonna say the funny thing was, like, then they talked about this in the documentary that there were rumors. There were rumors that before he did TV, he was like a Navy SEAL and this other, and it was all of it was just BS. It was completely untrue. But it's just like they went through like this litany of things that he did. Like he was a cop in the like the dirty part of Chicago, or whatever. It was all just crap. I mean, it was just a nice guy, and he had a gimmick, and the show was really good for the time. Was before my time, so I really don't care.
Here's one other funny thing: if people want to follow me on Twitter at Sportsology, there's a guy, Matt Oswald, who put up a picture today in tribute to Kurt Cobain because I guess today's his birthday. Right? I saw the picture, and I said, "It's David Spade."
Yes, it is.
It really is.
It's about as
understand.
It's about as close to Kurt Cobain as the statue that they replaced of Lucille Ball in her hometown. That looks like more like Beetlejuice than it did like I Love Lucy. So
I mean, I had to copy David Spade on it because like it really, he's got to see it. It looks exactly like him.
I want to hear David Spade sing All Apologies.
Right. That would be great.
I love that. Let's start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, February 21st, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Eklund will be joining us in a few minutes to give us the latest rumors that are going on. Just breaking as we came on air here, Pierre LeBrun reporting that he's hearing that Mike Hoffman's camp has been asked by Florida to submit a 10-team no-trade list, which is part of the player's modified no-trade clause. It is a no list. Doesn't mean he will be traded, but obviously teams are calling, so the Panthers need to be ready. Now, Hoffman has another year at a little over $5 million, and he's having a good year with Florida. So the only thing I would say there is if a team is going to trade for him, it's probably going to be a team that is giving Florida, I would say, a couple young assets that are really good. Otherwise, it makes no sense for them to trade them, especially if they're in the Panarin sweepstakes, if they're in the Bobrovsky sweepstakes, and they're planning on turning things around quickly. Having Hoffman, who's going to score probably 30 goals, at a reasonable salary, is something to keep and not something to move.
Yeah, I just can't believe they're going to trade the assets now to make sure they lock it up. Do they really think they have a chance at the playoffs? Like, how many points out are they?
Florida's out of it.
Right. So you're not going to make the playoffs this year. Yes, you keep them off the market. But if you're spending big assets just to keep them off the market, is it worth it? Like, that's, to me, I don't know. I don't think it is. But if they're being told this is the only way you're getting them, then
I mean,
do it.
Could this be Hoffman going to Columbus for Panarin?
It could be,
because Columbus.
Maybe they're getting the vibe that if they do this trade, then he'll be amenable to terms. If not, then maybe he's going to take his chances over the summer, and maybe they don't want to take their chances. But boy, Hoffman's a hell of a price to give up.
Yeah, Florida is at 60 points right now, 9 points behind Columbus. So they're done. They're dead. Yeah. Now let's talk about the two, and they're not monster trades, but significant trades that were made in the last 24 hours. Go to the one made last night between the Bruins and the Minnesota Wild. The Bruins give up, I guess you would say, prospect Ryan Donato and a conditional draft pick for a Charlie Coyle. Now Coyle has a year left at around 3.1 or 3.2 million. Donato is on the last year of his, I think he was a 2-year ELC that he signed coming out of Harvard. Which, and, he split, he came up late in the year last year. He split time between Providence and the Bruins this year. So it's probably not going to be expensive for Minnesota to re-sign him on a second deal, either a bridge deal or a qualifying offer, 1-year deal. But just the trade itself, what did you think of it, Russ?
I didn't think it was as good as some people were saying, because they were saying, well, they didn't lose anybody off the roster. Well, to me, it's like, hold on. You didn't lose anybody off the roster, but you lost a guy who isn't quite ready, or at least quite ready to fit in your team, but had like 9 points this year. And if he works out really hard this summer, can probably make a real good dent in Minnesota next year. So you traded an NHLer in essence. So yes, you just traded one that's further along and has size. Because Ryan Donato's got a way better shot. Ryan Donato is a smarter hockey player, and he's a faster hockey player. He's just not a stronger hockey player. Mm-hmm. So I look at it and I'm like, boy, this is just, you gave up somebody really good. I get it. And I know a lot of times they'll be like, well, you have to give up a prospect or whatever. Had they given up Senyshyn or Zaboral or somebody who hadn't touched the NHL yet, I'd say, hey, this is a great trade for the Bruins. But because they gave up somebody that could even play for Minnesota right away if they want him to,
right,
then it's not as good a trade. And also, Coyle's not great speed-wise in the NHL. He's okay. And, he's actually, what do you have, 20-something points this year, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
28 points. It's not a tremendous amount. I don't know if the Bruins will ignite him. Maybe they will. To me, he used to be really good when he could stir things up in the crease, get to the net. He does have a pretty good shot, but he hasn't done it for a couple of years now. That's the thing that would scare me in making this deal, is he really hasn't been the Charlie Coyle that we knew for at least a couple of years.
Well, and I know that the coming out of Boston, what they're saying is, he's probably going to be their third line center, although he has the ability to play the wing.
Yeah.
And, they've been looking for a third line center or center depth for a while, but they're also looking for a top 6 forward. And there was some thought that, okay, they've made their move and that's it. Joe Haggerty was on Toronto radio this morning. And I was listening to Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick on the 31 Thoughts podcast, and they basically said, the Coyle deal is great, or great for them in terms of help addressing a need this year, but that doesn't rule out Boston making a deal for a top 6 to buffer themselves in case of a situation with Pasternak, where Pasternak could be out until close to the end of the season, depending on how severe. They have very strategically said, okay, 2 weeks and we'll relook at what's going on with Pasternak. Well, 2 weeks is right after the deadline. So.
Yeah, because look, I mean, they don't have to play Pasternak, really. They can just wait until the playoffs, and that's what I would do. And I'd have him in the hyperbaric chamber and make sure the healing process is going well, and he'll wear some sort of protective splint, and I think he'll be fine. I don't think there'll be a problem there. I just look at Boston and I say, okay, you did fill a hole. That's fine. I don't expect Boston now to trade for Wayne Simmons. No way, no how. Sorry. I think maybe they probably did check in Philly and probably couldn't get a deal for Simmons. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe why they went Coyle, because then they said, all right, well, at least he plays center and wing. Because I think they would have liked a player like Simmons, but they didn't get him. So.
And he has another year, so it's not like it's a rental and they gave up.
Oh, that's the cover that you get when you give up a really popular prospect. But the Rangers had that same sort of cover when they made that same deal, and they don't always work out. Just because you get a guy with a year on it, Keith Yandel had a year on him, it didn't work out. So if they go really far in the playoffs, I'll say, hey, great deal.
Right.
I don't even know where Charlie Coyle will fit in next year, to be honest.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think, and Haggerty said, I can't guarantee, and that Don Sweeney is going to go out for a top 6 forward, and he's saying all the things that would say, well, we're probably not, but he's keeping the door open. The indication is that they still need that player, and if you're going to go for it, that you need to add. Now, I'm not saying to sell the farm for Panarin or give up 2 or 3 prospects for Mark Stone, but there might be somebody out there who can fit into their top 6, play with Krejci and DeBrusk on the second line, and free up Coyle to be on a third line with Backes and somebody else. And then you really have a 3-line attack or 3-line offense. They're not going to produce a lot, but they're going to produce more than they're producing right now in terms of the Bruins' third line. So, I think it helps them, and I think it's a good deal for the future for Minnesota. You have to consider this. Minnesota freed up over $2 million in cap space. And
they hit a lot of buttons on this trade. And I think it's really good for them. I get that. What people like about Coyle is he plays hard along the wall. He does. If you think the playoffs will slow down to the point where they're going to need some grinding, puck possession-y kind of moments in the game, in certain periods, then fine. And then maybe that makes sense. I do see people are picking on Donato saying, well, he's not fast. He's got a speed burst to him. I'm not saying he's a speedster like Carl Hagelin. He's not. But he's got a speed burst to him where he knows how to get to spots on the ice and get his shot off. And, he's faster than a guy like Tyler Toffoli, as an example. But right. I just like him better even going for next year. Next year, if you told me I wanted to make that trade, I would not make that trade. I would keep Donato.
Yeah, and I think this is a sign. We were talking about this last week where it came out that Craig Leopold had given the thumbs up to Paul Fenton, the GM of the Wild, that if he wanted to start to sort of retool, rebuild, to go ahead. And Minnesota, I think, is 2 points out of the wild card spot, and they make this deal. And granted, Donato could step in the NHL and replace Coyle on the Wild roster, but you're talking about a veteran player who was making a little over $3 million, and you're trading him for a guy on his rookie contract. It sounds like, it looks like, it smells like, it tastes like them starting to tear down or retool. And we will see if that's the case with Minnesota in less than a week.
The other thing about Donato, because I was reviewing my notes, because I used to watch him quite a bit in Harvard and saw him in Bruins games too. Pretty good defensively. He's actually one of those guys that can get you shorthanded chances too.
Yeah,
but he's not going to PK obviously on Boston, right? So, and even on the Wild, he's not going to right away either. But I'm just saying, if he's in that position, he's one of those smart players that can do that.
Maybe down the line he can do that. Yeah. But so we'll see about Minnesota in terms of the next 3 or 4 days, whether they are tearing down a little bit. And I think the move that sort of signifies that is if they trade Eric Stahl. If they trade Eric Stahl, then we know that they're starting, then that they're cashing it in this year, and that they're trying to improve things going forward. So
I think Stahl, they're going to wait until the 11th hour.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, do we start officially yet?
We're live. We're live. We just talked about the Coyle Donato deal, and we're just going to talk about the deal that happened today, which sort of snuck out last night in hints and rumors regarding Carl Hagelin going to the Capitals, and then it ended up happening this morning. A 3rd round pick and a conditional draft pick go to Los Angeles, and Hagelin goes to the Capitals, who I'm still puzzled. And Russ, you can say what you said in our chat. I am puzzled that nobody claimed Devontae Smith-Pelly. I cannot believe it.
Yeah, the only thing I could think about with him is I know sometimes he's got a temper and could be an outspoken guy, and maybe he, said something that the club didn't like.
There was a lot of word that his speed was the problem, that was why we were afraid to. Yeah, but he was obviously he had a big playoff last year, Now you would think that some team looking to try to do something in the playoffs, like
but nobody touched him. So that makes me think there's something else at play here.
Yeah.
Maybe it was his stance against Donald Trump.
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
Not in the NHL.
But yeah, it was strange, especially with teams out there. And I'm thinking there's more than one that were looking for sort of heavy, bigger forwards to play in a depth role. And that's exactly what Smith Pelly did. And he had playoff success last year. So you'd think that either, teams like that would pick him up, or a team like Ottawa or Los Angeles or Anaheim would pick him up simply to flip him for a draft pick.
Yeah,
I would have thought. I mean, I predicted he would get picked up today, but nothing. I mean, and
that's why I think there's something else there, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah. So he's still at Capital.
Yeah, he hasn't been sent down to the American Hockey League yet, but I assume that that's going to happen because they're going to have to open up cap space for Hagelin. I mean, Hagelin was making over $3 million. Smith Pelly was making $1 million, so I'm assuming they have to clear that $1 million to fit Hagelin in.
Yeah. They that's definitely what they had to do.
I mean, with Smith Pelly now, you're talking about 1, 2, 3. This is 4 teams. He's going on his 5th, whoever that might be, if there is a next team.
Yep. Yeah, isn't that crazy? And he's a good player. I mean, and then of course Kreider is the other name that's coming up a lot this afternoon for some reason. Talking to people. I mean, I guess he was written about by Larry Brooks.
Yeah, Larry Brooks wrote about it.
Yeah. So.
I'll give you my 2 cents about with Kreider. They can't afford to trade him. They're not going to get anybody back who is going to score 30 goals or more. They're just not. They don't have a long-term deal with him, and I get it. Look, his tops is 28, and he's got 24. So if he gets 27 goals, you know what I'm saying. I know someone's going to say, he never scored 30 goals. Got it. But the idea is with the speed, with the power he possesses, the occasional toughness, it's a great package. He's not a superstar, but he's still a 50-point guy a year, sometimes 60. He gets close. He got 53. This year, if the team was a little better, I think this year he probably would get like 58 to 60 points.
Yeah.
That's hard to replace. Like if you're trading that, what are you really getting back other than, well, we can't sign Chris Kreider? Well, the Rangers have plenty of cap space.
Right.
That's why I think teams are just looking at it because he has a deal that's going to be expiring. What does he have? 2 years left or 1 year left?
Kreider 1.
Yeah.
That's all. I think that's just what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the column, I mean, it said there was contact. Nashville, Boston, and Toronto were the teams that sort of kicked tires. But in the same breath, he said, that the Rangers, that Jeff Gordon was not looking to move them, and if they were bowled over by an offer like William Nylander or Charlie McAvoy, I mean, okay, yeah, like I'm sure that
nobody's trading McAvoy ever.
Yeah, I'm sure Don Sweeney and Kyle Dubas are knocking down the doors to offer those players for Chris Kreider.
He's too expensive for for some teams to grab. Like he would be too expensive for Toronto, unless Toronto.
It makes no sense for Toronto. Toronto does not. I mean, as good as Kreider is, and I like him as a player, that's not what they need. They're not going after a top 9 forward. It's got to be defense, or they stand with what they got. Now, just one little note on the Hagelin thing.
Mm-hmm.
LA did retain 50% of the salary, so that's how they fit him in. So his salary with the Caps is $1.875 million. So by sending down Smith Pelly, all they had to do is create $875,000 in cap space, and I think they can do that by sending somebody else down. So they're okay.
I guess you guys also heard, and I'm not talking. I mean, this was reported by Pierre LeBrun that Mike Hoffman's camp has been asked by Florida to submit a 10-team no trade list.
Yep.
Usually, he says this doesn't mean a player will be traded, but generally it does. I mean, if you're asking for a no trade list, that player is not really thrilled about sticking around.
Or they know that they're not going to sign him after next year when his contract is up. So we mentioned that right off the top, Ak, and I said, could this be like, because we've heard the Panarin talk, could this be the guy that Columbus gets in a Panarin deal that stays around for another year and replaces Panarin and keeps them in the playoff race.
Yeah. I mean, it could be. It doesn't. I don't know. I'm gonna be talking to. I'm gonna have more on Columbus later.
I mean, heck, with the Columbus, Florida thing, the only thing that I can come up with is it possible that like the agent is sort of telling Florida, look, if you trade for these guys, they're more likely to sign there. But if they do the open market, then I can't guarantee you anything. Is that the only reason why they might give up assets for them?
Yeah. I mean, that could be. And yeah, I mean, the amount of money that they're gonna have to pay to keep them long term is going to be intense. You know, it's going to be both players. You know, you're probably $20 million there for those two guys. You know, which is a lot. You know, and
I mean, I don't know. I don't think Bob will get 10 a year anymore, but he'll get 8.
Yeah, and you know, Panarin might get 10. He'll get 10 and might get a little more. You know, it's possible.
Yeah, he could get 10 and a half, 11.
It's going to be close. You know, I don't know. I think that Columbus is definitely in a weird spot right now because they have to figure things out quickly. I don't know if you guys heard Brian Burke on the radio this afternoon on XM, but it was pretty interesting. Where he was just like, "There's no way they can just let it ride." He's of the belief you have to trade both of them.
I agree,
and a lot of people are that way too. I just don't know about if they are or not. You know, I don't get that.
It's a situation that sucks, but I mean. The only thing that mitigates trading both of them is being able to get enough for Bobrovsky with him having a no move clause. Because if he has a no move clause, then he can direct where he wants to go, and then you're not getting top end value for him. You're not getting like if it was a free market and there were 4 or 5 teams out there looking for Sergei Bobrovsky, and you could play one off against the other. He could say, "I want to go to Calgary" or "I want to go to Colorado," and then they're limited by what Colorado or Calgary would give them in a deal. So, I mean, it's sort of you're sort of in it's a captive market when it comes to Bobrovsky. But the thing about Panarin that's great is he has no trade protection, so they can trade him anywhere, and he can't do a damn thing about it other than say, "I'm not signing anywhere before July 1st." Yeah. So
I mean, you get the sense he's got someplace he wants to go. You know, whatever that place is. Usually a player who's this adamant about it.
So I'm going to give you a fun thing, Ek.
Yep.
So back in '99, after the Panthers traded for Pavel Bure, they gave him a 5-year extension for $47 million. So he was getting 9.4 a year. Panarin's going to get more than that. I mean, that's crazy. He's going to get Pavel Bure money.
I know. It is. It really is. No, I totally agree with you.
Well,
I think Panarin's a great player, but Bure could really fill the net. I mean,
but if he right, but we're talking about in the era that Bobby Holik got $9 million. So you got to put it in perspective. It was a 9.
No, that's true. There was we're getting back to those salaries though.
We're there. I mean, the thing is, and even for Florida, he had 58 and 59 goals. I mean, Panarin's never getting that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I also want to get into this thing I'm reporting about the Flyers and Simmons talking to Tampa.
Right.
For Boris Katchouk. Is that how you say Katchouk?
Yeah, Katchouk, yep.
Katchouk. Boris Katchouk.
Yep.
And a draft pick, which I'm not sure where that pick is. And I'm not even sure if it's definitely they're getting that pick. But this Katchouk last year was line mates with Morgan Frost. This year Katchouk's in the AHL.
Well, one thing, if it is a draft pick, it will have to be a 2020 draft pick because right now, Tampa's second is part of a deal, part of the McDonough deal for the Rangers, and it's conditional. It can go up to a first if they win the cup.
Okay.
So more than likely, if they're trading a second, I don't think it would be a first, but if they're trading a second round pick, it would have to be 2020 second round pick.
I don't know much about Boris Katchouk.
I do.
So what are your thoughts on him?
He's a decent skater. He's got a heavy shot. He's a pretty well-built guy. I actually think, off the top of my head, I want to say he's about 6'1".
6'1", yeah, 6'1", 210, I think.
Yeah, he's like a bull, though. He really he could play a heavy game, and so that's something where the Flyers would definitely be interested in him, but he does have a really good shot. He's a hard-to-play-against guy, too. He is.
And I've seen him play a couple times. He was at some point Morgan Frost's line mate in
Mhm.
Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah.
So I mean that putting two and two together. I mean they that Frost within a year or two will probably be, I would say probably not next year but the following season in the NHL. And Kachuk is let's see, he's 20 years old. If they get him as part of a deal, now he's having an okay year with Syracuse in the AHL, 17 points, but he's young, so it's it's not going to be something where he's going to blow up and come into the NHL right away. But he's a good prospect, and this is his first pro year. So if they get him in a draft pick, that's a good.
I actually just double checked my notes. I did also have that he'll crash the net too. So like that's
that's what I can. And there's a lot of talk right now about Raffle perhaps being moved here in the next couple of days. And
I think he will. I mean,
I'm not positive on that one. I think they could perhaps sign him.
No, I mean they could. No.
Yeah, I don't. He's not going to be that expensive. They love him.
That's fine. He won't be that expensive in the summer either. They're not signing him now.
No, they're not signing him now. But
so they're going to get assets for him. Is my point.
Yeah, they might. I mean, you guys are still. I'm not there yet. I'm telling you, the Flyers are not.
I know, but you're
just
not there.
You're as delusional as the Flyers management.
I'm not.
You are.
I'm telling
you,
they're
done. They're done. They're done.
This is not my opinion here.
I know. Just telling you, they're done. And the Flyers fans can hate me all they want. I'm not saying this with any kind of glee. I'm just looking at the fact that Columbus is got a game in hand. They're 6 points ahead of them. If Columbus trades Panarin and Bobrovsky,
Columbus plays where tonight? Columbus plays in Ottawa tonight, right?
No, Ottawa plays New Jersey. I'll check with
Columbus plays Ottawa tomorrow, maybe or something like that. Columbus is on their way to Ottawa. That much I know.
I'll double check.
So yeah, because Columbus got stuck in Montreal. The Montreal and the Flyers both. Columbus and the Flyers both skated today in Montreal because of the storm. Montreal there.
Columbus does not play tonight.
They play tomorrow.
They play Ottawa tomorrow. Ottawa will be in the second of back-to-back games, and probably are sitting everybody.
I mean, let me tap that part of your brain that thinks that the Flyers are in it and ask you, which team exactly are they going to leapfrog over the other few that are already there to get into the playoffs?
All right. Well, I'm speaking as not myself now, okay? But where the Flyers are thinking.
This is a disembodied voice.
I've been talking to sources at the Flyers, and where they are right now is this, okay? And I promise you, this is where they are right now. This is not me.
Well, I'm not arguing with you about that.
Okay, so this is true. I mean, they're not there yet.
Yeah.
So, all right, right now, I mean, obviously, Carolina is what Carolina is. They are good. They played better, but they aren't a for sure thing to continue this pace that they've been on. Okay, so Buffalo's going the wrong direction,
and they're tied. They're tied with Buffalo right now.
They're tied with Buffalo. Buffalo's going the wrong direction, so maybe take them out of it.
Okay, so take Buffalo out. They still have Carolina, Columbus, Montreal. Who are they?
Carolina, Columbus, Montreal. It's not absurd to think that any one of those three could go south.
Going south means they're going to have to lose.
You need two of them too.
Yeah, you need two of them too, and they're going to have to lose like 6 out of 7 to end the season.
Yeah,
with the Flyers still winning most of their games.
And they're overplaying a 20-year-old goaltender, and their defense is pedestrian at best. I mean, I'm sorry.
Cam Talbot's going to be playing games. It's not going to be like.
Heck, as a small child, did you think you were going to?
They don't need two of those guys them to fall out at all. They need
yes, they do.
Yes,
you don't. They need one of them.
There's one team in between them and the playoff spot, and then they need the team in the playoff spot. So they need two teams.
No, okay. Well, yeah, I'm saying all right. Yeah, right, fine. But what I'm saying is you've got basically you have 4 teams. If you want to, now Buffalo is still in it too, obviously.
But you're right; they are going in the wrong direction.
So there's 4 teams that are playing well I mean, Columbus is really not playing well right now, but
they're 6. But they're 6 points or 8 points after they beat Ottawa ahead.
Yes, right. They are. But the Flyers play Columbus like 3 more times, so that can be. There's situations there. The Flyers play Montreal Thursday night. Okay, so they play Montreal Thursday night. They can. get, they right now they are the same. They are 8 points behind Montreal right now. Same amount of games played. All right, they play Montreal. Carolina, I'm not buying that they're set in stone. You have 4 teams battling for 2 spots in my opinion.
All right, I have to ask you this question. This is an interview question, a serious question. As a young boy, did you think you were going to win the golden ticket for Willy Wonka?
That movie freaked me out when I was little. I would never watch it. It's terrifying. I thought Oompa Loompas were real. Still think
because right now you're one of the kids swimming in chocolate. You're drowning in chocolate. You are.
Are you
Flyers were this far out of the playoffs right now? Right?
Are you currently drinking fizzy lifting
Going
drink?
into the trade deadline last year, the Flyers were 8 points out. They finished in third place.
God.
Oh my God!
Decade.
They finished in third place last year.
No, I know, but when they finished on the last day of the year, that happens once a decade. That kind of finish.
And they're playing the Canadian. They're playing the Canadians tonight.
Have you done math on this yet? Have you done the math?
Yeah, no, I've done the math. I mean, the math is all there. I mean,
check Hockey Reference to see what the percentage is.
I'm going to look at the percentage.
Don't do that.
I am.
Because right now it'll be 5%. If the Flyers win 2 games and Montreal loses 2 games, it'll be 30%. It's just like it's all ridiculous. So
what you're saying is right now, as of right now, they could be trading. They could be trading Simmons, but there's nobody else like say Gudis. He's suspended, but there was some. There was rumored to be interest.
They could be trading Raffle. I mean, they could be trading. I'm not saying. I mean, they could be trading.
Raffle's not a difference maker. He's a good third line guy, but he's not a difference maker. I mean, Gudis.
If you're going to try to make the playoffs, you're not trading Raffle. That's all I can say because Raffle's important. He's more important than that.
Right now, it's 7.3% is the Flyers' chance.
All right, last week was 5. I'll take it.
Whereas Columbus is 72.4.
Yeah, because they've won 2 more games.
I'm sorry.
Think about that for a second.
And they have a big lead.
2 more games.
Carolina. Now, here's the interesting thing, though. I'm giving you the highest percentage. Sometimes the wild card percentage is lower now because you have teams from the Atlantic rolling over. So I'm giving you the highest possible percentage is 7. Even Carolina is 53.
Right. Now,
Carolina is 5 points ahead of the Flyers right now, and they're 53, and the Flyers are 7.
Can we get back
to that though? I mean, think about that. With 22 games to go, 22 games with 44 points out there, the difference of 5 points is the difference between 53 and 7. That doesn't make any sense.
All right, let's talk about the key team, which is Ottawa. We know Duchesne is sitting tonight. There's speculation of whether Dzingel and Stone are going to sit tonight. They're playing New Jersey. According to Pierre LeBrun tweeted out this morning that there are teams that are getting frustrated that there hasn't been any resolution in the Stone thing, and I don't know if that's just what I thought and I
tweeted that out last night, Mike. It's absolutely
no, but it may be true, but what I think this is, and tell me if I'm wrong, is this is another a team's general manager saying crapper, get off the pot. They want to get things moving. And they're floating this out there to hope that it jumpstarts something.
Yeah, I don't believe there's one team that's walking away from potentially getting Mark Stone just because they haven't gotten him yet. I don't believe that.
No. I did talk to a source though who doesn't think Stone or Duchesne or Dzingel will go to Boston. Now Boston is going to get somebody else, but
maybe
Ottawa doesn't love helping out Boston. That's not a situation. I mean, I don't care. I know what you're looking at now and looking at, but are you really? I mean, if Stone were to go to Boston and re-sign there, that's not what.
Yeah, I mean, you may very well be right. And the other thing is, I don't know if Ottawa wants to see. Remember, they did this with Hoffman and they got backdoored by Doug Wilson. They did this with Carlson. They traded him to the West. They wanted to trade him out of the division. I don't think they want to see Duchesne or Dzingel or Stone come into their building in the next couple of years, unless unless Boston overpays them and they can just overlook that. So there's enough interest in those guys that they can pick and choose in terms of where they want them to go. And if they don't want to face them down the line, then they can control that. I mean, you can't control if they want to go free agent and sign inside the division, but you can control if you want to trade Stone to Winnipeg or wherever.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. They can control that. I mean, you don't know where he's going to sign, but he can sign anywhere. He's allowed to sign anywhere. But there is an issue. There are issues there for sure. And I want to point out to some.
I mean, didn't Duchesne come out yet today and say he wants to, or yesterday saying he wants to play?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's all fine and good. Then sign the contract and you can play.
No, but just obviously the players are getting a little.
It's really ridiculous. I mean, we are looking at the weirdest trade deadline.
That's my point.
Because we are looking at a trade deadline that has actually become a buyer's market. And people, and it is a little strange. Like the Hagelin deal, they gave up a lot for Hagelin.
They did, but they're 22nd in the league in penalty killing. So that's another thing.
Yeah,
and I also think that part of the return was to get LA to retain almost $2 million in salary. Otherwise, they don't get that player.
Yeah,
you have to pay a team to retain salary. They're not going to do it out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah, no, that's true. The salary retention is a big deal. I mean, didn't the Rangers retain some of Hagelin's salary too? Are we looking at one of those?
The Penguins retained $250,000 to balance the deal with Tanner Pearson.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, they're retaining. I think it was $1.875 million. So they're retaining 50%. That's a healthy chunk.
Kind of interesting taxes, to do there for Hagelin. He's got definitely got.
I do have breaking
taxes in 4 states.
Go ahead, Russ.
This will be good. Bob Roadtruck, who does a really nice job with Lehigh Valley, reported Carson Briere, son of Danny, will play for Arizona State.
Okay.
Arizona State, yeah, they've gotten.
We've seen Danny Briere's son around.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Yeah, he's a great kid. Yeah.
Nice place to go to school.
Yeah, congratulations to Danny and family.
I'd like
Danny. I'm not sure. I got to look it up.
I'd like a hockey scholarship to go to Arizona State.
Yeah, why not? Right?
Jeez.
And they're I mean, they're in the news a lot this year. I mean, Arizona.
They have a goalie that's just lighting it up.
Yeah, they're playing really well.
They're playing well.
I know
one of them is 5'9", 175. He's got his dad's height, so he's gonna have to do everything else.
Yeah, no, I've heard. I know Briere has like three sons, and one of them.
Although to be honest, at 5'9", he might be an inch taller than Danny.
Might
I'm
be.
gonna check the next Flyers game. I am. I'm gonna walk and just sort of like see.
But Danny is like, has he been at the games lately?
Yeah.
Oh, he has been. He's not, because I know he's up in Maine most of the time.
No. He's been at games lately.
Okay, I haven't seen him.
So what are we hearing on Duchesne? Because
let's talk about Stone for a second. Because in the chat room, Mr. Matt Boss says we will find out here in the next 24 to 48 hours what will happen with Stone, and he said that was my report, and that was my report, more than 48 hours ago. And,
I don't think this is. I don't think anybody should be holding your feet to the fire. This is an unusual situation.
Well, this is. I mean, they always hold my feet to the fire, but yeah, I get it.
But if they're gonna hold your feet to the fire,
nothing new. I don't mind people holding my feet to the fire, but what my point is here that I came out last night and said the teams were frustrated because 48 hours were up.
Right, and the same thing is being said by McKenzie and Drager and LeBrun and Pierre and Elliot Friedman that teams want to get going here because they're scared of being at 3 p.m. on Monday and left holding the bag and have nothing in it. I mean, I think ideally you want to see something break in the next 24 hours when it comes to Stone, and then everything else fills out after that. I mean, yeah, I mean, I can sense the frustration from general managers, and I think there's frustration from people like us who want to report on it too.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, as long as it goes, I love it. I mean, I think it's fun. It gets more intriguing, but there's no question that I think that we are really looking at this weird market that is shaping into a buyer's market where players are going to go at the deadline for a lot less than they expected to. I really think it's going to end up happening that way more than we thought, because there's only so many. I mean, there's too many players available right now, and good players and players that will help teams. And teams are going to have to move them because it doesn't make any point in holding them, like you said. So
just posted by Bob McKenzie. See, if Ottawa does not have an agreement or some description with Mark Stone or Dzingel before tonight's game in New Jersey, I'd be shocked if they're in the lineup. So
that's what I've heard too.
Yeah. So I mean, there's your Rubicon. Because if that's the case, if they're sitting them out, it's over. I mean, it's over in terms of they're going somewhere. It's just a question of where and when.
Yeah. Oh, and I want to give you some news.
Okay.
Jason Matias has like a head cold today, so you better be on your A game. You never know.
All right. Yeah. Woohoo.
You never know. You may get your
I have never met Jason Matias.
Yeah, he's the number 1 goalie right now. You're the number 2, but
I know.
But he's got a head cold, so there's always that chance.
Oh man, I don't know. My wife was number 2.
No pulled groins.
Yeah, no. Raise your groin if it's not pulled. Definitely. It's Jason's been saying this. I've never met Jason at all.
I'll introduce you. He's not been saying it. I was supposed to do a show with him today, and I checked in on him, and he said no, he can't. He's not even on his daily radio show today because he's sick.
Oh boy.
He says he has a head cold. So I'm just letting you know that.
Ready.
Not to root for him to be sick, but I'm just saying.
No, he'll play. It's only a short game.
The Carter Heart of the media game.
Maybe he'll give me 5 minutes. I'm hoping for 5 minutes. We'll see what happens. See if I get in towards the end of the game. You need a good backup. You need a good old experienced backup like me.
Yeah.
The Carter
laughing. I mean, like I said, my road back to playing in this game has been like hilarious, and not to change subject.
I would think in warm up you should at least get 2 or 3 shots before he takes the net, right?
That's what I want. I just want to skate on the ice, take a couple shots, and call it. There's also a rumor out there that the Penguins might not have a goalie, and that I could end up playing against the Phillies. Because I'm a national reporter, I could technically qualify, and it was credentialed.
Come on, where's
that? I told them that would kill me. I mean, to have to I don't know if we're going to be. If there's
shut out the Philly media, not that it would happen. You're not going to shut out anybody. But what if you shut out the Philly media?
I would have to pay Russ to hang out and videotape this forever.
Sign Tom Barrasso. Come on.
I need you to stay tomorrow night if you can. Hang out and videotape this for us. For Eric and I. No, but so like I said, the first day I went out, I was just tired putting my equipment in the car, and that was all I did. And then I've been going 10 minutes at a time and getting better. And now I'm at the point where I really feel pretty good about myself in goal. Although I do get laughed at a lot because I still have my goalie pads are still full of deer hair.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so old, but it's funny.
Who had the pads that were that used to be peeling? He was a Carolina goalie.
Oh yeah, no, Archer
Urban.
Are very similar to Archer Urban's pads, in that they give off rebounds like pitchbacks. So I have to really work on that. But my pads, I tried these newfangled pads, and I hated them. So
let me just reflect on
back to this. Sorry.
Let me just reflect on a conversation I had with our mutual friend Sean Vetter, our former Calgary blogger on HockeyBuzz, because I was asking him because he constantly watches the Flames, he's into them, and as a fan and as a writer would be, and I asked him about their goaltending situation, and he seemed to think that they were fine based on the possible interest of getting Jimmy Howard, and basically thought that Howard was not an upgrade over David Rich and Mike Smith, but there are goaltenders out there. So I'm still wondering, because if you look at the statistics, I mean, Calgary, they're having a great season. They could have home ice advantage in the West.
Yeah.
But you got your starting goaltender who's got a sub 900 save percentage. Mike Smith is, declining, although he's bounced back a little bit. I would just think that they'd be looking for some answer, some support in goal if they could find it.
Too. I mean, and I think there are goalies out there, that could do something. I just got a text that it's not out of the question that Mike Hoffman could be part of a Panarin deal.
Yeah, the funny thing is, yesterday Detroit played Chicago, and I posed a question on Twitter whether a team like Chicago, who has the worst goals against, the most goals against in the NHL, could make the playoffs. If they do, it'll be really exciting because they've had an 8-7 game this week, and they had a 4-1 lead in Detroit last night, and Jimmy Howard got pulled in a game where he was celebrated for being one of the 3 goaltenders who had 500 career starts as a Red Wing, which it could, and they pulled him off the ice and he broke his stick against the wall. So that might be it could be the last game that he plays as a Red Wing if they trade him. But Chicago blew a 4-1 lead in the third period, went to overtime, and then Patrick Kane scored in overtime. I mean, they're terrible defensively, but they're scoring goals in big bunches. So,
and have you heard the rumor out there is that they are trying to get Panarin as a rental?
As a rental?
As a rental. Chicago is.
Will it be Brandon Saad again?
I don't know.
I heard the other night when Columbus played Chicago, Panarin and Kane were playing around, shooting the puck at each other and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, they get along. They're really buddies. And Panarin, I don't know if he would go there permanently or if that's where he wants to go back to, but it's interesting. They are actually talking. I think I even saw Elliot Friedman mention it somewhere that he heard it and was surprised by it. But I'm really, really surprised. And I mean, I think Howard is a steal for somebody if they can get him. If you can get Howard for the playoffs, that you should. I mean, like I've said many times, Toronto should do it. And I don't know. We'll see. They should.
There are enough holes with the Leafs right now that
fine. Don't worry about
backup goaltender is way down on the list of priorities.
Yeah, I know.
It's defense.
Big guys that take up a lot of room on the ice. Don't worry about Toronto.
Well, Babcock wants that. I'm not sure Toronto wants that.
Yeah. So the Simmons thing is something that I've been tracking for most of the afternoon, and I mean the Flyers are finally aggressively talking to teams about him. That I know. And
well, I mean, see, okay, that's where I don't understand, Ak. If they're aggressively shopping Simmons, then that does not go hand in hand with them saying we're still in it. If you're shopping Simmons, you're out of it. If you're in it, you're keeping Simmons.
Well, I think they are. I don't think they're moving him until Sunday.
Well, and okay, can I just?
Yeah.
Them keeping Simmons for the outdoor game. If they're actually doing that,
it's not really for keeping him for the outdoor game. It's keeping him for the Penguins game. I mean, honestly, it's really what it comes down to is Montreal and Pittsburgh, 2 teams you're going after, right? That's what it comes down to. So it's more like they think that if we're going to use him, it's like Panarin. There's no reason that Columbus would move him early either because they're fighting for a playoff spot here, so you get as many games as you can get out of him.
You're really risking it, though.
You are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not wishing ill on him, but what happens if he steps in a rut on that outdoor rink and pulls a hammy or hurts a knee? I mean, that's why Ottawa is sitting those players because they're assets.
They're obviously way out of it, I mean, and I know you guys think
they're out of it, Mike. There's a difference.
They're so far out of it. I mean, the Flyers are not as far out of it.
The Flyers are not as out of it, but they're out of it.
Yeah. I mean, they don't think.
Apparently, it's up for debate, Mike. Just like Jordan Binnington and Carter Hart. That's up for debate.
Right? Come on, it is up for debate. I mean, it's like I'm not saying
it's still up for debate.
I don't want to go through this again.
Let's take some questions from the chat.
Let's try that. Let's do that. That's a good idea.
Before we
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you that Simmons, if he plays, he's going to play angry, and he could probably get hurt. He could get hurt. I mean, Simmons is not going to play. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder if he plays in these games.
He said something to the ref last game and got kicked out. Like he's lucky he's even playing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Have any questions for us? Throw them on in.
All right, Adam. Oh wait. This is weird. BK Up says Adam Ziller, who's also a chat room guy, not a real person, thinks Sabres will trade any D or more for a forward issue.
No.
I
mean, okay,
they don't have enough to trade.
Let's say. I mean, right now the Sabres have had I think it's the worst record in the league since New Year's. So, and they're going in the wrong direction, as X said. I mean, it's getting acrimonious between the Sabres and the media. I referenced yesterday, Jake McCabe said some things to one of the reporters, because the reporters are just looking at what's going on and saying this team is declining. And I know that Mike Harrington wrote something in the Buffalo News on Sunday about them being interested in Charlie Coyle and saw what Boston had to give up and basically said, what, Sabres, you couldn't top that, because they think they need a center to maybe buffer between Eichel and maybe take the responsibilities off Middlestat. But their problem is right now, again, their goaltender, after that 10-game streak, their goaltending became pedestrian.
Yeah.
Ullmark has played okay. Hutton has not. Hutton I think is 3-11-2 since that 10-game winning streak. So their goaltending became very average. Their defense, Dahlin is great. Ristolainen is a good number 2, number 3. They've got a couple others. Zach Bogosian is a friggin' disaster.
And Will Morgan knocked the snot out of somebody yesterday.
Ryan McGinnis. Yeah, I saw that fight. So, but
McGinnis is a tall kid, but he's lanky.
Yeah, but the whole point is that they're 1 or 2 defensemen from being a good defense. And the scoring is all Skinner and Eichel. And if they're not getting any help, Kyle Poso's out with another concussion. And there's some talk here about his career might be in jeopardy. Because remember, he had the concussion problems last year. Now it's again. He got hit on the button by Anthony DeAngelo and shouldn't have gotten in a fight. But, I mean, they really need a lot of help. And there's, again, the fan base in Buffalo is growing increasingly frustrated. This team has not made the playoffs in 8 years? I mean, it's pathetic. And they've bottomed out, and then Tim Murray did some stupid moves by going out and trading for Bogosian and Evander Kane. They didn't do it completely by the book rebuild like Toronto and other teams did. So, I mean, I think Botterill's trying to do things the right way. They lose Berglund. Ryan O'Reilly's having a great year with the Blues. I mean, there's a lot of things in Buffalo right now that the fan base and that, they're displeased with the direction of this team, and they want changes and they want improvement. And if they don't get it, there's going to be a revolt of the fans.
Tom wants to know, is Ottawa going to move? It is possible. We don't know yet. We really don't.
Is Ottawa going to move the franchise?
Yeah.
It feels like it's a growing possibility. Put it that way.
Yeah.
It feels like that. That there's a big pull towards Quebec. I hate to say it, but that if there's a team that goes anywhere, Ottawa to Quebec is an easy move for them.
If they don't get that building situation straightened out down in downtown Ottawa, I think it's a 50-50 proposition. I don't think the league wants to move teams, but if there's a Canadian city to Canadian city move that takes Bettman off the hook, I think they would go for that.
It helps a lot. Moving a Canadian city to America is not something that they want to do, and they have. I'm convinced the NHL has made promises to Quebec, and that they will do everything they can to get a team there. And
well, you know how you know that they made promises to them? You haven't heard a peep out of Quebec.
You haven't heard a peep out of Quebec, despite the fact that Seattle it kind of leapfrogged them. It really looked like Quebec was going to be the next team, and then suddenly it's Seattle, which has to do more with a Canadian dollar than anything else. But now they know the interesting name is Jeff Skinner, which is really starting to become.
Let me start off with this second, then I got to take my dog out real quick.
Go ahead.
BK Up said Bracco for Puljujarvi. I would not do that if I were.
Nope. No.
Ooh, no.
No way. Jeremy Bracco was leading the American Hockey League in assists right now in his first really full AHL season. I don't think the Leafs are going to trade him for one simple reason. He's cheap, and I think he may be ready for the NHL next year. And if they trade a forward like a Kapanen or a Janssen or a Nylander in the off season to get the defenseman, Jeremy Bracco is in the NHL. So they're not. I don't think they're going to move him. And the thing is, I don't think you can get a defenseman of the type that they need for Jeremy Bracco because he's unproven at the NHL level. But I think if you put him with Kadri or Matthews, or probably not Tavares because that'll be Marner, but if you put him with one of those good centers, I think he'll score 40 to 45 points in the NHL. So and Puljujarvi is a question mark right now simply because did Edmonton ruin him like they ruined Yakupov?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a different kind of player. He's
big.
He's not Yakupov in a lot of, like, Yakupov in a lot of ways was more focused and centered, just maybe not as talented as people thought. Like, I think that with Yakupov, I really felt bad in a lot of ways because he really did put effort out there and he did his thing, but it didn't translate to the NHL as everyone thought it would. Which usually people the scouts and guys like Russ aren't wrong about guys like Yakupov, but PRV I think has a little bit more going on.
Well, it's funny. It's funny how Edmonton sort of diffused this situation act because he didn't want to go down to the American Hockey League again. Puljujärvi made it clear he didn't want to go back to Bakersfield. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, and I'm not saying they made it up, but it came out of nowhere. He's on injured reserve, and now I saw a tweet this morning. I think it was Ryan Rashad tweeted out. He may be out longer than expected. Well, it's convenient for them because now they don't have to send him down to the minors, but it might actually take the pressure off making a decision in terms of trading him, because if he's hurt, then they're not going to trade damaged goods. They could wait till the summer to do it.
Here's a good question from Stammer Hammer. Can Simmons keep Tom Wilson in check if Tampa plays Washington in the Eastern Conference Final? I would say no, because Wilson's too good a skater.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's better than not having him. I mean,
he'll keep in check on certain shifts, but for the whole game, no.
He can respond. He can respond to Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, Simmons he can respond to Wilson, and he will. See, the thing about
he'll push into everything, but
he does battle, and even like right now when he's rumored to be traded, he's the one fighting to try to get the team going or whatever. He's still the guy doing that, which is why people are so interested in him, because he absolutely has. There's no question he's a great team guy, but he really wants to stay here too. And he's trying.
And maybe he can come back in the summer. But
I think that's something that people really have to realize. That I think that, and I think the Flyers could end up talking to him because of how well he has played lately, and then say, listen, we're not opposed to trying to work this out in the summer, but right now we can get something for you and come back to a better team this summer. That's not the first time that's happened. So it's
but just think of it this way. If Tom Wilson takes a run at Kucherov or takes a run at Stamkos or or Victor Hedman, you're going to have Simmons basically saying, okay, I'm going to run Kuznetsov. I'm going to run whoever, and it'll be tit for tat. And right now you don't have, you can say that stuff is out of hockey baloney in the playoffs. That'll be a big part of it. That teams get their dander up when it comes to the postseason, and when you have a weapon like that, because Simmons can play, he can score, and he can also play that physical aspect. So I think that if Tampa gets him, that's a piece that's missing, and you can put him in your top 9, and he's not going to hurt you. So that would be a good deal for them.
Yeah, I think that would be a good deal. Let's see what else you have over here.
Torres
available.
Drop off. So
yeah, it's okay. We'll go a couple more here and then we'll get out of here. Is Kyle Torres available at all? Yeah, he is available. I think that I like I've said before, I've never been a Kyle Torres guy. He's just one of these guys so crazy and consistent, and he was really bad for the Predators last year in the playoffs. And that was a big deal.
The problem is that he's got ridiculous term left on that contract. So, it might be something in the summer that they can move him, because the cap hit is $6 million, but he's got another 5 years left on that contract. That's a tough nut to crack. That's really a big deal to move out. So, I don't think you can do it now. You'd think that they might want to clear out. This is the thing. If they trade for Duchesne and then they sign Duchesne to a long-term extension, then Turris is the one who's going to go out. But they're not going to get any. They're not going to get anything for him. In fact, they're probably going to have to take something back in terms of salary to get rid of 5 years of Turris.
I would think so for sure. Okay. Who do you think the Sharks go after besides Haley? They just picked up
somebody cheap. They don't have a lot of cap space.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of cap space, so they have to be smart about the way they do it. But they're being aggressive. They really could make an aggressive move. This is the best Sharks team, and Doug Wilson came out and said that.
Yeah,
and I think he's right. I think this is the best Sharks team we've ever seen, and this team is better than the team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals. They are a team that going to be very hard to eliminate in the playoffs.
I don't know why, but it might be simply because of the fact that he's got a very inexpensive salary, and I think Minnesota's on this path. If they trade Eric Stahl, I would say San Jose makes a lot of sense. He's played with Thornton before on Team Canada. He's of the same generation as those guys. I think he wants to win another Stanley Cup, and if Minnesota retains 50% of the salary, he's like under $2 million, so they could fit it.
Yeah, they could fit it, and I mean,
and he plays wing and center, so he's versatile.
Yeah, he's very versatile,
and he's still a good player.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see what else we have here.
And anybody else who's cheap is probably a younger player, and then it's going to cost them more because other teams don't want to give up their young players, or if they're cheap. I mean, I don't think it's a defenseman. They're loaded with Carlson, with Vlasic, with Brent Burns. I think it's going to be a forward if they trade for anybody. Although you could say they might want a goaltender. And I don't know if you saw there was a rumor out there yesterday, that Ryan Miller was going to get traded to the Sharks.
I saw that.
But it hasn't come to pass yet. Maybe it's something that happens in the next day or so. But
he's a great backup if you need one. I mean, he's the perfect kind of situation for that. I would definitely, he's been in tough games. He's been in big games. He's actually looked pretty good since he came back.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a playoff tested goaltender, and if Martin Jones doesn't play well, then you could go to him. But yeah, I mean, it was out there, but I don't know how valid it was in terms of a rumor.
Yeah. All right, one more here. What do you think Detroit could get for Jimmy Howard? What do we think?
A conditional first.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe a second round pick and a lower pick, but
like a second that could go to a first type thing or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But I actually agree. I'm not. This is not going out on a limb. I actually agree with Sean. I mean, I don't know if Jimmy Howard is having a much better year than Rittich and Smith, but I don't know how much of an upgrade he is over those guys. I've always been a harsh critic of Jimmy Howard and never thought he was that great of a goaltender. He's having a great statistical year this year with a bad Detroit team, so you have to think that he would be an upgrade. But I don't know if I'm Calgary, if I would want to trade a first-round pick for a guy who might be just marginally better than what they already have.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely. I mean, it's very, very different because he's more experienced, right? So he's
yes.
And and the experience is a big deal. He's been involved in the playoffs. He's been through this. So,
and you would think that if they trade for Howard with his salary, that they're probably going to have to flip Mike Smith back in the deal to open up the cap space, or Rittich doesn't make anything. Smith makes, I think, in the 4s, and Howard makes in the 5s. So yeah. Either Detroit is going to have to eat salary, retain salary on Howard to make it fit, or they would have to take somebody back. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That is all the time we have for today. And really appreciate you guys watching, being a part of the show. And
yeah, we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. We're probably going to have Kevin Allen on the show, and then on Monday we'll be starting at 11 a.m. and going through the deadline at 3, probably going to like 4:30. Depending on the action after the deadline, but we'll be providing wall-to-wall coverage.
Absolutely, we'll be here, and so tomorrow, remember early tomorrow, Kevin Allen, and I'll be getting ready to play tomorrow night in the big house. There, it'll be fun. Right.
We need video. We need video.
I know. I got to get Russ to stay. Because right before is the player availability for both teams. So, and then afterwards is a big media dinner. So I bet I can get Russ to stay and get some videotape of it. It'll be fun. If nothing, it'll be very embarrassing. All right, remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon. Thank you.